What is going on, guys? Now, I know I may sound a little bit different, but you see, I've ascended to peak Dragonknight performance. I am the embodiment of the meta. Now, some say the meta does not exist, but to those I say, you're just haters because my Dragonknight is simply better than yours. Why is that? Well, this is the most meta, unkillable, overpowered, free dry cleaning, god mode, gas price lowering, coupon using, 25 kill streak earning, most bestest meta build of all time. Get your deodorant ready because it is about to get sweaty. All this intro stuff aside, Dragonknight is in a really good spot this patch. It has everything you need toolkit wise, damage, healing, and tankiness, and is still the king of PvP in my opinion. This build is very easy to pick up and play, and anyone can enjoy this spec, therefore I give it a 5 out of 5 stars for its approachability rating. It is fun to do well with this build, and if you want to be a sweat lord, this build can do that too. And if I had to sum this build up in one word, it would be Demiaboat. Otherwise known as Dragonknight is the meta and the bestest build of all time. So if you want to be good at Dragonknight or just want to be good at ESO in general, this build is for you. And as a wise meta user once told me, with great power comes great abusing of ESO game mechanics. And without further ado,
hope you guys enjoy the montage. Taking a look at our attributes, we have no points into magic, no points into health, and 64 points into stamina. And here are some numbers for the nerds that care. Do note, fellow nerdlings, these numbers get higher while you're in combat. We are an Imperial. Imperial is my first choice for a Dragonknight like this, because if you're going to play the meta, obviously you have to be the best race. Dark Elf would work as well, and maybe Orc. As an Imperial, we get 2,000 max health, 2,000 maximum stamina, and a reduced cost to all of our abilities, including roll, dodge, break free, blocking, etc. by 6%. For the Mundus stone, we are using the Serpent. I'm using the Serpent because I find my stamina recovery takes the biggest hit while I'm in combat. Normally, we are casting ults pretty often, but still, you'll find that your stam sustain kind of lacks. And, well, you're going to be doing a lot of blocking and, you know, casting of a lot of stamina abilities, so being able to have that backup reserve with the Serpent really comes in handy. But feel free to put whatever Mundus stone you feel is appropriate here. On this build, we are Vampire Stage 3. We are Vampire Stage 3 for the passives that we get. More specifically, Undeath, which gives us 30% extra damage mitigation based off of our missing health. This, in combination with our skills and the tankiness that is built into this build, really allows us to stay alive for an extended period of time. And if you are planning on using Mistform on this build, go ahead and pick up Strike from the Shadows, so that way you can have an additional bit of damage whenever you leave Mistform. And Vampire is not negotiable on this build. You really need to be a Vampire. For our consumables, we have Jewels of Misrule. This, when we use it, gives us maximum health and stamina and magic recovery, which really pairs well with this build, as we are dipping into all of our resources while we're fighting, so having that extra recovery for both of those stat pools on top of the extended amount of health that we get with this is really, really good on this build. If you can afford it, I would recommend using Orgorga Smoke Bear Haunch if you really want to push the meta that this build can achieve, but, you know, this is the PC and we're struggling out here, so. For our potions, we are using the Tri-Stat Potion. Okay, right now it's the Crown Restoration Potion, but you can make these for yourself if you use Bug Gloss, Columbine, and Mountain Flower. This will give you the same effect, and, well, is a Tri-Stat Potion, so there you go. And yes, we are using Double Dot Poisons on this build. For our front bar, we have Deadlands Assassin's Maul. It is charged. You could do Sharpened here if you really want to push for extra pin, but you have Corrosive Armor on as a ultimate, so just having charged is just much better. If you don't know what Deadlands Assassin does, basically it gives you a bunch of lines of damage, one line of stamina, and a proc at the very end, which does bleed damage if they're below 50% health, which is another dot, and bleed. And the status effects it can apply with charged are very, very powerful, especially on a build like this, which is very heavy into dot damage. On our back bar, we have a Sword of Daedric Trickery with a weapon damage enchantment. It is defending. If you don't know what Daedric Trickery does, basically you pull from a bag of 5 random major buffs, and each of them are very, very good, and they back up this build very well. Now, I know Daedric Trickery costs 8 traits to craft, and if that's not doable for some people, you could always run Wretched Vitality in its place. However, you're not going to get the same kind of usage as you would if you were to run Daedric Trickery, simply because our sustain is more or less taken care of on this build because of ultimates and some of the other Dragonknight passives on top of our Mundus stone as well. So that would just be what I recommend to run in its place until you can afford to get Trickery. And, you know, if you don't want to run Trickery for some reason, you can also put that there. For our offhand, we have a Shield of Daedric Trickery with a Tri-Stat enchantment. It is reinforced. For our head, we have Bloodspawn's Visage with a Tri-Stat enchantment. It is sturdy. If you don't know what Bloodspawn does, there you go. Take note of these armor weights because they are important. For our chest, we have the Gallant Chain with a Tri-Stat enchantment. This is reinforced, otherwise known as the Cuirass of the Trainee, and we have this here for the 1 line of health that it gives to us. For our shoulders, we have Bloodspawn's Epaulets. I think I said that right.
Epaulets.
Epaulets?
Epaulets.
Whatever. With a Tri-Stat enchantment, it is impenetrable. For our waist, we have a Sash of Daedric Trickery with a Tri-Stat enchantment. It is sturdy. For our hands, we have Deadlands Assassin's Bracers with a Tri-Stat enchantment. These are well fitted. For our legs, we have Greaves of Daedric Trickery with a Tri-Stat enchantment. These are reinforced. Greaves means they're heavy. For our feet, we have Sabatons of Daedric Trickery with a Tri-Stat enchantment. These are also reinforced. These are Sabatons, which means they're heavy. For our necklace, we have Deadlands Assassin's Amulet with a weapon damage enchantment. This is infused. For our first ring, we have Deadlands Assassin's Ring with a weapon damage enchantment. This one is infused. And for our second ring, we have Death Dealer's Feet with a weapon damage enchantment, and this is swift. If you don't know what this does, basically the longer you're in combat, the more resources you have access to. Now, I know not everyone's going to have access to Death Dealers, and that's fine. Death Dealers is my choice for this build. If you don't have Death Dealers, you could always use the Mark and Ring of Majesty. That's a decent item for this build as well. On our front bar, we have Molten Whip. This, whenever we cast any ability from the Ardent Flame tree, grants us a stack of Seething Fury, which increases our damage by 20% for this ability. This stacks up to 3 times, and at 3 stacks, we can cast this and hit really, really hard. This is like a burst skill. Next, we have Venomous Claw. This is a damage over time ability, and the longer it stays on a target, the more damage it deals, and this also affects the stacks that we get with Molten Whip. Next, we have Flames of Oblivion. Casting this gives us another stack of Seething Fury, but also, when we do use it, it launches a fireball at the nearest 3 enemies, and it deals quite a bit of damage. This is like a delayed burst skill, and also having it slotted gives us access to Savagery and Prophecy, increasing our critical chance. Next, we have Noxious Breath. This is our spammable. This is a damage over time ability. Whenever we use it on somebody, it's normally a bunch of somebodies because it's an AoE ability. It applies a dot to all of them and applies Major Breach to them, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 6,000. Next, we have Rally. This is a very, very loaded skill. It gives us damage, recovery, and it's a burst heal on top of all that, so it's a very good skill to have. Just more healing power. For our front bar ultimate, we have Ferocious Leap. Whenever we use this, we jump on top of an enemy very laggily, and we hit them really, really hard, as well as gain a damage shield that completely caps out our health bar for 6 seconds. So this can be used defensively, offensively, however the heck you want to use it. It's a Dragonknight, okay? Listen, ultimates on Dragonknight are just, they're something else. On our back bar, we have Elusive Mist. This is here because, well, it's Elusive Mist. It is probably the most cheesy defensive skill in the game, and of course, if you're trying to be a meta Chad like me, you have to have this on your bar somewhere. And also, it removes snares and immobilizations from you, but you can't be healed, and your recovery stats are just disabled. Okay, look, you can read the rest there for yourself. If you don't want to use Mist Form for some reason, you can just put on Race Against Time from the Digicorder skill line. That works too. Next up, we have Resolving Vigor. This is a heal over time. We cast this. It gives us a heal for 5 seconds, which is a lot of health. This scales with Trickery and all the other damage sources that we have. And also, we get Minor Resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance by 3k. Next, we have Coagulating Blood, by far the hardest burst heal to use in the game. Basically, you press this and your health immediately goes back to full. Next, we have Shattering Rocks. Basically, you cast this on an enemy and they just are disabled. Like, it's that easy. You just press it and it does it. Next, we have Hardened Armor. This is our armor buff, and when we cast it, we get a damage shield for 6 seconds. And also, anyone that attacks us with this armor buff active is going to receive some damage. So, you know, of course, because we're a Dragonknight. Look. And for our back bar ultimate, we have the high... Look, this ultimate right here, it requires a lot of skill to use. Don't be fooled. Basically, whenever you cast this, you become an immortal god, okay? And basically, you could just kill everyone and never die, okay? That's basically what this does. It is what it is. It is what it is. This is a balanced ability. All of these abilities, in combination with all of the Dragonknight's passives, makes this build very, very powerful, especially defensive-wise, because for some reason you just get a free 12% additional healing buff. And make sure you get all the passives too, okay? These are important to get. For our champion points, obviously you don't need champion points because you're a Dragonknight. In the role player tree, we have Meticulous Disassembly, look, Master Gatherer, Plentiful Harvest, Insteed's Blessing. In the Sweaty tree, we have Duelist Rebuff, Ironclad, Deadly Aim, and Master at Arms. In the Potato tree, we have Celerity, Survival Instincts, Pain's Refuge, and Sustained by Suffering. And make sure when you're filling out the Mystic Tenacity passive that you only put 10 points into it, so that way you can get more mileage out of Survival Instincts and Sustained by Suffering. And fill out the little golden stars as well, but make sure to aim for these big passives. Welcome to the combat stuff section of the video. If you have no idea what a combat stuff section is, well, first, welcome to the channel. This is my channel. Look, I make weird videos that people like to enjoy. And second, this is where we look at some gameplay, we go over some tips, we look at the rotation of the build, and all the combat other related items that come along with playing a build, okay? For Dragonknight this patch, you really don't need to understand a lot in order to make a build like this work. Anyone can do well with Dragonknight this patch. Everything is built under the class, and you don't need to go to weapon skill lines to fill in the gaps where you don't have something in the class. So that's why Dragonknight is really, really strong. And that on top of just everything you could possibly need for PvP. Healing power, damage, sustained burst, and also, you know, just general tankiness because it's a Dragonknight. And now you can start to see why it doesn't take a whole bunch to play this class very well. Like, anyone can pick it up and do well with it. But I will give some pointers anyways for those that just want to go super sweaty mode and just be some sort of unnecessary try-hard in a game that no one is going to care about in probably like 3 years because of the way it's going. But hey, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. So let's begin with the rotation. So for the rotation on Dragonknight, it's not at all complicated. You have so many different ways to approach a situation, whether you just want to go in and try and get a big fat burst combo off on somebody, or you just want to bleed someone dry of resources. You can just, so many different ways to pick an engagement, and depending on the type of target you're fighting, you also have those kind of tools at your disposal. So like dealing with a tanky person, of course, you're going to use corrosive before anything else, and you're going to have your dots going. But the general rotation and like rule of thumb for Dragonknight when it comes to, you know, your debuff rotation, so to speak, is you want to open on your front bar, right? You want to open on your front bar with Flames of Oblivion, so that way you can go ahead and get that ticking. Then you want to use your Venomous Claw, and we want to use that next because the longer that ticks on a target, the more damage it's going to do. And then you want to use your Noxious Breath. And then you're going to go to your back bar, you're going to get your Shattering Rocks, you're going to hit that on them, and try and time that up with your Flames of Oblivion and your whip at the same time, and then you just burst them. That's just the general rotation that you'd use, like, overall for Dragonknight. And if you didn't know, your Flames of Oblivion lasts for 15 seconds, and every 5 seconds, another fireball is going to be launched out at the nearest 3 people, so just keep that in mind, so that way, when you're preparing a combo, see if it has, like, 2 seconds till it, you know, hits one of the 5 marks. You just want to time it up with that, and basically you're good to go. And I don't need to explain much else, like, for the rotation, because it's Dragonknight, it's really, really easy to do, okay? And for the defensive rotation for this build, all you want to do, okay, listen, this is very advanced, very skillful, it's very difficult to do, and not a lot of players are capable of doing it, so I'm not sure if you are going to be able to do it, but here it is. You ready? You hold block on your back bar, you hold block, then you press Vigor, and then you press Coagulating Blood. And if it's really, really hairy situation, you just go into misform and get behind a wall. And boom. It is what it is. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do, okay? And then when your ultimate is ready, that's when you go offensive, okay? It's literally that easy. Either corrosive or leap, it doesn't matter. They're both gonna save your life and allow you to go super offensive at the same time. So, you know, it is what it is, okay? So, yeah, there you go. Some other things to be on the lookout for whenever you're playing Dragonknight is the fact that some of your abilities are bugged. I'm specifically talking about Leap and Shattering Rocks. Those aren't going to work sometimes. For some reason, your target's always going to be out of range for those abilities. For Shattering Rocks, I at least understand why it happens. It's because someone either goes into misform, and when they leave misform, you can't stun them with Shattering Rocks for some reason, or they use an immovability potion. If you want to fix that and you want to be able to Shattering Rocks them again, you just have to leap on them. And I don't know why that fixes it. It does. And for your leap not working, I don't really have an explanation for it. Sometimes it just wants to not work, and then you have to use corrosive armor instead. But, you know, I guess that's ZeniMax's way of nerfing this class, because, well, look, build, but, you know, even if those things don't work and sometimes your ultimates fail you, you'll still be just fine. Unless, of course, you're not actually able to cast abilities, because the only time you're ever really going to die on a build like this, or on Dragonknight in general, is if the game itself is just having a really bad day, and you have, like, 700 ping, and you're trying to cast abilities, but they're not going off. And that's literally the only reason why I die on this build, is because my abilities just don't fire sometimes. Like, I've had moments where I press corrosive armor like 7 times and nothing happens. I've tried to use whip sometimes, and then it plays the animation, but the ability doesn't deal damage, and it's just really weird. It's just really weird. But yeah, that's basically it. And one final thing, kind of unrelated to the combat stuff section, is just because you play Dragonknight, that doesn't mean you're good at the game, okay? If you actually want to get better and improve at ESO, don't just play Dragonknight all the time.
So yeah, that's how you become meta in ESO. It's not hard to do, and anyone with at least 5 IQ can put this build together, and do very well with it. If you're still watching the video by this point, then that means you enjoyed the video, and therefore, you have to subscribe. It is what it is. I do not understand why my voice keeps changing, but I guess it is part of the complete meta transformation. It does not matter. Do not worry about it. Anyways, do not let people try to convince you that the Warden is meta. It is not. I am meta, okay? I am the meta. Okay, I need to stop with this meta stuff before I grow an ego. Look, do not play this build for extended periods of time, or do play it for extended periods of time. I do not care. But yeah, in the wise words of IB to Charity Fund, Nerf Mag Sork! And yeah, have a good night.